Hello everybody, JGC Anime here, and today we're to review Mashle, Magic, and Muscles. So without further ado, let's just hop right into this. So, what is the story summary for Mashle, Magic, and Muscles? Basically, we start with our main character Mash, who, in a world of magic, he can't use magic. However, after being found out, he now has to attend this magic academy in order to become a thing called a divine visionary. That way, he can be accepted into society. And yeah, that's basically how the story starts off. And let's just talk about some spoiler-free thoughts. So, in terms of spoiler-free thoughts, this anime has an interesting history with me, as when I watched it the first time, it was kind of a bizarre watch schedule. Like, for episodes 1 to 9 or so, I would watch every week. I would tune in every single week. I really enjoyed it. But then, when episodes 10, 11, and 12 came out, I kind of distanced each episode. Sometimes I'd watch them by weeks, and I believe it took me almost 2 to 3 months to finally sit down and finally watch episode 12. So when I was going back to rewatch this for this review, I was very curious to see what exactly was going to happen here. Like, would I really freaking enjoy it? Or would I really not care for it? Like, I wasn't too sure. But I figured since season 2, as of right now, is currently airing, I decided to just go ahead and give this first season a rewatch. And in my honest opinion, this show on a rewatch is kind of a mixed bag. In fact, that's what I'm mostly going to be talking about, as unlike a lot of other shows where I'm able to kind of give my feelings on it from the rewatch to the original watch, in this case, the rewatch kind of stands out in not the best light, which is why I want to talk more about it. However, I do want to say the show is still good. In fact, it's great. However, there are some problems here and there that on a rewatch, at least for me personally, and that's what I'm here to talk about. So yeah, what I want to talk about first is, I guess, the comedy. The comedy in the show, since it's mainly a comedy, is kind of iffy at times on the rewatch, as when I was watching it the first time, I was laughing at almost every single joke. I thought it was super funny, it was super entertaining. But on the rewatch, because I know most of those jokes are coming, they just don't hit the same. It's not like when I was watching The Eminence in Shadow on a rewatch and was still laughing a lot at all the jokes. In this case, there were still jokes I laughed at. In fact, there were plenty of jokes that I still thought were really funny. However, most of the jokes just didn't hit, and in fact, it kind of made some of the episodes kind of hard to sit through. Like, I remember when I was watching the first few episodes, like episodes 1 to 5 or 6, the episodes just were kind of iffy. There were still good episodes in there, but a lot of the jokes that either weren't funny the first time didn't really stick, and the jokes that were funny the first time didn't really sound as funny on the rewatch because we already knew it was coming, the jokes were already there, and so a lot of the humor doesn't hit the same way, which sometimes happens. That's just how it is sometimes. And in this case, I genuinely want to say that the jokes sometimes did not hit. However, some of them still did hit. There were many moments that maybe I'll talk about in the spoiler section, maybe not, I don't know, that were still really funny, but more often than not, the jokes were just kind of iffy or a haha type moments where they were really funny when I watched them the first time, but rewatching them now, I already knew they were coming, they weren't as funny, and that's something I feel like this show definitely kind of suffers from, at least again, for me personally. I just felt that on the rewatch, the jokes were not as funny. However, I will give credit that the show still manages to keep me interested plenty of times. In fact, the entire storyline that happens after the first few episodes, which are kind of just one-off episodes on their own, once we get to an actual story that progresses throughout multiple episodes, that's when things started to really pick up for me, and I started to get back into the show, whereas the first few episodes were just kind of me just watching. I wasn't really thinking about it, I was just watching it. But once we started getting more into the story elements, things definitely started to pick up for me. Things definitely were starting to become a lot more fun, and before I knew it, I was really enjoying myself. And that's how I felt about that whole thing just in general. I felt like there were lots of really nice moments in there that really added to the fun of it after that. Some of the jokes, yes, still didn't hit. A lot of moments where in the past I got a good laugh, now we're just more of either a chuckle or maybe a smile or just blank face. I guess it was of those three options that I ended up going with for my reactions to the jokes. But overall, I definitely still found myself really enjoying this anime, even on the rewatch. And while it's not perfect, I still really enjoyed it. And I don't know if I'd rewatch it a third time, because I feel like if I rewatched it a third time, the jokes really wouldn't hit that much. However, I still enjoyed myself on the second watch, and it was fun enough. which is why I'm very excited really to hop into season 2, as I've heard good things about it so far. So yeah, that's all I can really say without spoiling anything, because there's a lot of things here I want to talk about that really dive into spoiler territory. So we're just going to the spoiler section now. Here's a timestamp when the spoilers end. If you have seen the show, I recommend sticking around and hear my thoughts, but if you haven't, just skip to the end so you don't get spoilers. But again, if you have seen it, I recommend sticking around and hear my thoughts. So yeah, I'm going to count up to 5 and I'm going to enter the spoiler section. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so what do I mean by some of the jokes that could be funny or anything? No, I'm not going to repeat everything I just said. There are some jokes in there that I can say that really didn't hit us hard, while there were some others that really did hit hard. And one of the ones that I genuinely think wasn't that funny the first time, and especially wasn't funny the second time, is this one senior who keeps talking about rising like bamboo. Now, I'm sure some people really enjoyed that guy, but for me personally, his whole bamboo shtick was not funny. It really was genuinely not hilarious. In fact, I thought it was the most annoying part of his interactions with Mash, and just, I didn't care when he came on screen. Even when he had a bit of a moment later on when it's revealed that one of the enemy dorms here at the school was actually draining his magic, he still made jokes about bamboo and stuff like that. It didn't really sit with me the first time, and it especially didn't sit with me the second time. I just got kind of bored and sometimes rolled my eyes whenever he talked about bamboo. It just wasn't funny. To be clear, this is just my opinion, but I thought it wasn't very funny, but yeah. But then there's some jokes that I completely forgot about that land really well, such as this one moment where Dot and Finn, two of Mash's friends, are up against one of the members of the enemy dorm, and everything seems kind of hopeless here, and you think, oh man, things are going really bad for them, but all of a sudden Finn's brother just comes in and just slams his sword into this dude. I don't know what was funny about that, but for some reason just that moment in particular really got me laughing. And then there was the whole battle between Mash and the main leader of this enemy dorm called Abel, or something like that. And that whole fight was really fun to watch. It was very entertaining, especially with how Mash is able to outsmart him. And it makes me realize something, that while Mash can be kind of dense, one of the things he has going for him is his incredible intelligence when it comes to strategy. Like, he may not be smart in a lot of categories, but when it comes to strategy, he is surprisingly really efficient at it. And that's something I kind of respect about his character, especially since a lot of people were saying this was basically Harry Potter One Punch Man, which is what I was thinking when going into this show. But I was surprised at how much personality Mash has as a character, despite having that blank face. Like, you think, all right, he's just gonna basically be Saitama. He's basically just gonna be Saitama, but with a slightly different character design. But nope. Mash has a full-on personality that is really fun to watch, and it's really helped by his cast of characters, where some of them are just kind of iffy. Like, Lemon hasn't done enough to really give me a reason to care about her character that much yet. She's just kind of the love interest who fawns over the protagonist who's clearly not interested in her type cliche. And then there's some other characters like Lance, who does have his whole thing about why he wants to become a divine visionary, which is nice, although his syscon shtick it's still pretty funny, though. It, again, didn't hit as hard as the first time because I already knew it was coming, so didn't hit as hard, but still funny enough. And then there's Finn, who's basically just the wimp of the group, who's just there to support. Though I do find it weird how out of nowhere in the final or second to final episode, basically he was captured by Abel, and it's just like, wait, he captured him? Okay, I guess that's the thing now. But moving past that, then we have Dot, who I'm gonna say this was the best character on this rewatch. The first time I watched this, Dot was basically a blip on the radar. I didn't care about his character that much, and I just didn't think much about him. But when I was rewatching this, he just became my favorite character out of everybody, because even though we know he's kind of the loser of the group, he doesn't really accomplish much. He's just the guy who just does whatever. You could see his more main character-esque moments, like how it's revealed he has this one line on his forehead that makes him a lot stronger. That's only activated through intense emotions. And there's also the whole thing where even though he's being manipulated, he tried to support other people by taking 10 hits, which was really, really good. And it's just, there are so many nice moments with Dot that make me think, dang, he really does have that main character syndrome, but he does have those main character aspects as well. So I kind of respect him for it. And it just made him just my favorite character. And I'm excited to see what maybe he might do in season 2 along with Mash and the others. And overall, I just really enjoyed his character, and he was definitely the best part of this. But moving on past that for now, I would also like to talk about the villains such as Abel and Abyss and a few others that really surprised me with how they went from being these big enemies that Mash and crew had to fight to suddenly being redeemed characters who kind of became friends with Mash and all of his friends. Well, kind of. Not technically. I mean, yes, Abyss did that, but the others, I don't know about the others, but they did kind of learn their lesson through Mash and his friends, and I thought that was really nice to kind of give him a little redemption arc, as it seems like Abel is starting to kind of question his original beliefs and stuff like that, and is trying to think about what his mother always told him, and stuff like that is really nice. I was surprised at how, instead of really feeling like a One Punch Man ripoff where Mash just constantly beat up everybody easily, there's actual strategies and methods to how everything works, and I really like that detail. However, sometimes the details could go a bit too deep. Like, I give a lot of positives here, but there is one negative I can think of that it's probably just a me problem, but I really hate how they over-explain a lot of details in the show. Like, there are plenty of details that I think, yeah, you need to explain this. The school system, stuff like that, yeah, I get it. But then, in the final episode, there's this mirror where they're like, it's a mirror that reflects magic back at you, but more powerful. They could have just said all that in one sentence, but then they go into a full-on detail of how the entire thing works, and it just feels like they're trying to drag out the episode at that point, because it's like, yeah, I get it. I understand that. And then they're like, all right, this guy has gravity magic. This is how that works. And they're like, yeah, I get it. It's gravity magic. I understand. You don't need to explain every detail to me. And that's something I kind of complained about, where it definitely feels like there are some moments where details are explained that really don't need to be explained. Like, if you understand magic and stuff like that, it's a pretty easy concept to grasp. I don't know why they have to go into detail on it, but they do anyway. And yeah, that's a minor complaint I kind of had, but it wasn't the worst thing ever. I lived with it. There are some more positive things I could talk about as well, like how both the opening theme and ending theme of this season are really good. I've heard a lot of good things about Mashle Season 2's opening, so I'm very curious to see how that sounds. But basically, the first opening and ending theme are both really good. Like, I was surprised at how I actually really like the ending theme a lot more than the opening theme. The opening theme really fits with the vibe of Mashle. It's all about him being this really strong guy who's always working out because he doesn't have magic. All he could do is work out. It really gives that workout vibe, like you want to just go to a gym and work out while listening to this song. It definitely fits that vibe. And they just have the ending theme, which is just so bizarre because it's all about cream puffs, and it's just so funny that I love it. It's so good. But yeah, moving on past that for now. I would also like to talk about Mash's, I guess, father, because he did raise him, who interacts with this policeman who's basically demanding Mash to go to this school and become a divine visionary. You just have this officer who you think is this big threat in episode 1, but then all of a sudden he just becomes basically kind of like a father. Almost like a second father to Mash, where he's talking about how he's worried about Mash, but he tries to hide it. And it's so funny how he's basically become like, it's kind of become like an odd couple with him and Mash's actual dad, where the two of them are just interacting and hanging out with each other. Even if it's only a little bit in there in season 1, it's so much fun, and I kind of hope to see more in season 2. It's just, their dynamic, despite barely being on screen, is so much fun to watch, and I, again, hope to see more of them in season 2, because it was just a lot of fun watching them. But yeah, with all that said, I guess one thing I'd like to talk about that I wasn't too big of a fan of on my original watch, it's not a big complaint, but this is kind of something I've wanted to talk about for a while, is I'm not a big fan of how some of these episodes are structured, where they like to end things off on a rather odd note. Like, this didn't really happen on the rewatch because, I could just watch all the episodes at once. But one thing that the original season suffered from is it likes to end things on a rather odd note in every single episode. Like, it'll build up this thing, and it seems like, oh man, we're gonna get to see this thing, but then they just keep dragging out that you're gonna see that thing and then end the episode. That way they'll do it next episode. And it's just, this might be something that's not actually true, and I'm just feeling like that's true, but I feel like when I'm watching, they're trying to build up this plot point, but then because they realize they have a whole episode they need to cover, they just drag out that plot point till the end and then set up the next plot point, even though they could have easily squeezed both plot points into one episode. But overall, still really enjoyed Mashle Season 1. I wouldn't say it's as fun on the rewatch, but it was still decently fun. It still had its good moments. It may have not been the best show ever, but there's still a lot of fun moments in there, and yeah, that's all I really have to say. So we're at the conclusion of this video, and what are my final thoughts? Overall, Mashle is still fun on the rewatch. I wouldn't say it's as fun. There's definitely some elements to it that don't hit as hard because you've already seen the jokes. They're not as funny the second time around, but it's still a good show nonetheless. And if you want to rewatch with a friend who's never seen it before, I'd recommend it because you get to see them laugh at the jokes and maybe you'll have some fun with that. But yeah, it wasn't a bad rewatch, and I still like Mashle a lot, and I'm excited to check out season 2. So yeah, overall, I give Mashle Magic and Muscles a 7 out of 10. Decently fun, and if you're looking for a fun time, it's something to enjoy. It's a fun little show with some good comedy. So if you're watching it the first time, go ahead and watch it because it's fun. The first watch is going to be awesome. Maybe the second watch was different for you, maybe not, I don't know, this is just my opinion and all. But the second watch was not as great, but the first watch was amazing. I really do recommend this show for anyone who's new to the show and wants to check it out. It's still really fun, and yeah. That's all I really have to say, and thank you all for watching. If you're new to the JGC Anime channel, don't forget to subscribe. I also do anime fans to the channel, and I will see you all around. Peace!